Yomi is Sanhedrin 101. The Daf Yomi talks about, well, first of all, the Daf is dedicated for Shemir for the Chayalim, that's all for the Shvuyim and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. We're going to start on 101a, 5 lines in the top. The Gemara tells us, Tan Rabbanan, that Korah Pasuk, Shel Shir Shirim. If a person reads a verse of the Song of Songs, so come in Zemer, and tries to turn it into a song. Now, Korah Pasuk, the base mishtos, and a person who reads a verse in like a pub, below Zmano, when it's not the appropriate time, maybe he's bringing bad things to the world. The Torah puts on a sackcloth. Something like Kodesh Baruch Hu stands before God. It says before God, Ribbono Shel Olam, Master of the universe, Asuni Banecha Kekinor, Shemenagnim Boetzim. You made your children like a harp, which the mockers are playing. Amar La, so God responds, Biti Bishasha Ochem Vishosin Amayisasku. So God says to the Torah, well, if that's the case, when they're eating and drinking, what should my children do? Amar Lafanav Ribbono Shel Olam Min Balei Mikra and Yasku B'Torah. So the Torah says, God, if they are people who study the verses, let them study the Torah Nevi'im and Ksuvim in Balei Mishnah. And if they're people who study the Mishnah, Yasku b'Mishnah b'Halachos u'Agados, they should engage in Mishnah, Halachos and Agados, and Balei Talmudim. And if they are experts in the Talmud, Yasku b'Hilchos Pesach, b'Pesach, Hilchos Atzeres, b'Atzeres, Hilchos Chag, b'Chag. They should study the holiday that's appropriate. Hey, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Rabbi Shimon Chumninya, Kol HaKorah Pasuk B'Zman, whoever reads a verse in its proper time, maybe Tova Olam is going to bring good things to the world, as it states, the Davar B'Ito Ma Tov, to do something in its proper time. How good is that? He says that somebody who recites incantations on a wound has no share in the world to come. Rabbi Yochanan of the Rokek. That's where you recite this verse and you spit at the same time. It's inappropriate to recite God's name while you're spitting. Rav says no. Even if you recite the verse about Saras, which doesn't mention the name of God, and even if you don't spit, you're going to have no share in the world to come. Even if you just recite a verse that has nothing to do with healing, just like the verse by Yikra al Moshe, which is basically a verse, just like studying Torah, if you do that over a wound like a segula, you have no share in the world to come. You're allowed to put oil on a massage on Shabbos. And you can make incantations about scorpions and snakes on Shabbos so that they don't attack you, and that's not considered to be trapping. You're just keeping them in their place with your voice, but this way they will behave. That's not considered to be trapping. You could put a utensil on the eye on Shabbos, a metal utensil to cool you down. When do we say this? With a utensil. With a utensil that you're allowed to move on Shabbos, but if with a mukti utensil also, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to ask a question from the demons on Shabbos. Rashi says that that's what they would do when they lost something. They would ask the demons, and the demons would tell them. But you're not allowed to do that because on Shabbos you're not supposed to engage in businesses like looking for money, like looking for your objects. Rabbi Yossi says also during the week it's prohibited, and we'll see why. Rashi says it's because it's a dangerous activity to deal with demons. Amrafuna. Now there's a girsa issue. One verse says the law is like Rabbi Yossi, the other is halach Rabbi Yossi, the other is ain't halach Rabbi Yossi. The two different versions about how we rule on this. Rabbi Yossi, mishum sakana. Rabbi Yossi says the reason why you can't answer demons is because it's dangerous. Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, the Ivla Ba'arza, he was talking to the demons. He got swallowed up by a cedar tree, and then a miracle happened. Then he was spit out from it. You had a massage and put the oil on your midsection on Shabbos. You have to do it differently. First you put the oil and then you do the massage. b'vas achas. You do them at once. Taner Rabbanan shari shemen v'shari beitzim. So this that there's basically an incident with the demons that you ask them for the oil, and that's called shari shemen. That's called the asking for the oil, and also asking for the eggs. You would ask the demons, "How do I get the oil, and how do I get the eggs?" So therefore, we're talking about this now. Shari shemen, shari beitzim, mutar l'shal b'han. You're allowed to ask the demons for them. El nay shemechazvin. But the problem is that they are going to lie. The reason why we don't ask is because we're going to lie, and so there's no benefit. You're allowed to ask about the oil in a utensil, but not on the oil in a hand. And what's the reason? Because there's no benefit to that. So therefore, you're allowed to take the oil to anoint yourself from the oil in your hand. You don't have to worry that there's demons, but not from the oil that's in the utensil. He came to a guest. They brought him the oil in utensil. Shaf, he put it on himself, and he got all these boils on his face. Nafak Lashuk, he went out. A woman saw him. Amar Zika the Chemas Kachazina. I see that this demon called Chemas has attacked you. So she did something to me. He was healed. Amar Rabba Bar Mari, Stiv, it states, it says in the verse, all the ailments that I placed upon Egypt, I will not place upon you, because I am God, your doctor. So since God has not placed anything upon you, then why do you need healing? This is what it means. If you listen to the voice of Hashem your God, im tishma, well, asim. If you listen, I won't place it. Im lo tishma, if you don't listen, asim, I'll place it. Afal pikei, nevertheless, even if I place it upon you, ki ani Hashem rofecha, I will heal you. Amar Rabbi Bar Chana, keshachol Rabbi Elazar. When Rabbi Eliezer got sick, nichnasu talmidei l'zakro. Here we go. His students came to visit him. Amar lahen, chama aza yesh ba'olam. So the student said to him, there's a tremendous fever in the world, tremendous force. And I mean to say, he says it's so sick. So they all began to cry. Or a chema gadol, maybe not a fever, maybe it's tremendous anger in the world. That God is upset at him, and that's why he's given this tremendous illness. So they all began to cry. Rabbi Kiva Mesachik, Rabbi Kiva was laughing. Amrlo, lama ta Mesachik, why are you laughing? Amrlo, and v'chimim ne ma'atem bochim, why are you crying? Amrlo, Evshar, Sefer Torah, Sharai B'tzar, Nivke, is there a Torah scroll in pain? Will we not cry? Amrlo, Kachani Mesachik, this is why I'm crying. Shekos man shani roe Rebbe, shein yeno machmi. It's as long as I see my Rebbe and his wine is not turning into vinegar. Vein pishtano loka, and his flax is not getting ruined. Vein shmeno mavish, his oil is not drying up. Vein dushano mavish, and his honey is not spoiling. Amarti shema chaz v'shalom kibo Rebbe olamoa. I thought maybe Rebbe received his reward in this world. Now I see him in distress. I'm happy. He says, so Rabbi Eliezer says, what am I missing? No, you've done something wrong. You just don't know what it is. Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer got sick, 4 elders came to visit him. Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Tarfon says, you're better for the Jewish people than a drop of rain. A drop of rain from this world. The Rabbi but you're in this world and in the next world. Rabbi Shua Amar Tov Israel Yosei Yoser Migal Gochama. He says, you're better for this world, better than the sun. Sun is in this world and in the world to come. Then Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you're better than this world, better than a father and a mother. A father and a mother are in this world. The Rebbe Bolam Hazeh Bolam above. Rebbe's in this world and the world to come. Then the Rebbe Kiva Amar Chaviv and Yisurin. Rebbe Kiva said, the afflictions that we have in life are beloved. Amram Samchuni Veshma Divrei Akiva. He says, lift me up so I could hear the words of Akiva. He says, Talmidei, my student. Shemar Chavivi Yisurin. He says that, who says that the afflictions are beloved? Amar Akiva Zumina Elocha. Where do you know this from? Amar Mikrani Dorish. I'm expounding a verse. It says, with respect to Menashe, the son of Chizkiah, the king of Yehuda. Chizkiah was a tzaddik, and Menashe was a rasha. So Chizkiah's son became a rasha. He says, Ben Shtemes Reshana Menashe b'Malko. Menashe was 12 years old when he became king. V'chamisha v'chamesh shana melech b'Yerushalayim, and he ruled for 55 years. Vayas Rabbeinu Hashem. He did bad in the eyes of God. Uksiv, and it says in the verse with respect to Chizkiah, his father, Gam Ela Mishlei Shlomo Asher Itiku Anshe Chizkiah Melech Yehuda, meaning to say that Chizkiah and his students wrote down all of the sayings of Shlomo Melech. If that's the case, why was Menashe so bad? Chizkiah Melech Yehuda called him Kul Limei Torah. Chizkiah taught the whole world Torah, like we said earlier in our Gemara, whereas Menashe beno Limei Torah. And is it possible that he didn't teach his son Menashe Torah? From all the things that Chizkiah was doing to try and teach his son Torah wasn't working. But then when afflictions came upon Menashe, God spoke to Menashe, he didn't listen. So God bring the king of Assyria, and he caught Menashe basically with the like this ring that they place in the jaw of an animal. They tied him up in chains. And they took him to Bavel. And that was when Menashe did tshuva. So only when he had afflictions. We learn from Yersha, Chaviv and Yisurin, that Yisurin is what brings us closer to God. Taner Rabbanan Shlosha Ba'u Ba'lila, where three people had a claim against God, and God was unable to refute them. Elin Kayin Esav Menashe Kayin, because it says Gadol Avonim and He says, my sin is too great for you to bear. So he says, is my sin too great to bear? I'm a fan of Rabbana Shalom Kum Gadol Avoni Mishishim Ribo. Is basically my sin greater than all of the 600,000, 60,000, which is 660 riba, which is 600,000 or in the future going to sin before you. You forgive them, you should forgive me as well. Esav, because what does Esav say? That what does Esav say? Abracha acha silucha, abrachas hach silucha avi. You only have one blessing. You have more than one blessing, and that is a correct thing that he does. So indeed, he got a bracha that was also eternal. And Menashe, what was the Menashe? B'tchila karala Elohus arbei u'b'sof karala Elokev. Menashe, when he was trapped by the king of Babel, he didn't immediately pray to God, but first he prayed to all the other idols, and only in the end did he pray to God. And this was his claim. He says, if you won't save me from my distress, then we'll see that you're praying to is no better than praying to the idolatry. And so therefore, we see from here that God responded to that. Abba Shalom so also one who says, pronounces God's name, doesn't have a share in the world to come. Tana ubidbun. If you do this outside of Israel, that's when you're in trouble. Ubulashon aga. What's Lashon aga? Lashon aga is in the vernacular, meaning to say you do it in a different language, not in Hebrew. Another explanation is Lashon uga. It's a circle. You do it amongst people who are just speaking nonsense or regular talk, not holy talk. There are three kings and four commoners who have no share in the world to come. Toner Rabbanan, who are these three kings? Well, first they go into the first one, who is the three kings are Yeravam, Achab, and Menashe. Yeravam, Sheriba, Am. And what did he do? He caused all the Jewish people to sin. Davaracha Yeravam Sha'asa Meriva Bam. He caused a fight amongst the people because he caused them to worship idolatry. Davaracha Yeravam Sha'asa Meriva Ben Yisrael Avim Shebeshmaim. He caused a fight between the Jewish people and their father in heaven. Ben Navat. What is Ben Navat? Ben Shenivet V'Lo. He saw, but he didn't understand. He didn't understand. Tana hu Navat hu Micha hu Sheva ben Bechri. So Navat is the same person as Micha. Micha is the one who brought the idolatry in the book of Judges, the Pesach Micha, and he's also Sheva ben Bechri. Navat sheniva v'lara. Navat who saw, but he didn't understand. Micha shenismach mech bebinyan. Micha who was crushed in the building. What is this? He was crushed in the building of Egypt. That they placed him in a building instead of the bricks. Rashi says that Moshe said to God, "You're making this so hard for the people. Now, if they have no bricks, they're going to put their children there instead." So God says they're just killing the ones who are supposed to be dying, because these people, I know if they live, they'll be wicked. And if you want, you could test me and take out one of them. Went and he took out Micha. So that's, Moshe thought he knew better than God. Mashmo, and what was his name? Sheva ben Bichri Shmo. Sheva ben Bichri was the one who did this. Then Rabbanan, says the Gemara, there are three who saw but didn't understand. Who were the three who saw and didn't understand? They only Navad, Achitophel, V'Itz Paro. Navad, Achitophel, and the astrologers of Pharaoh. Navad Ra, Esha, Yotzeis, being Amaso. Navad saw fire came out from his Ama, Husav, or Il Melch. He thought he's going to be the king. Meloi, it wasn't the case. Yeravam, who did not fuck me. Yeravam was the one who came out from him. Achitophel ra tzaras shezarcho amaso. Achitophel saw tzaras on his ama. Husav il melch. He thought it is the sign that he's going to be king. Meloi, it's not the case. Batsheva bitohi. It's Batsheva is his granddaughter that she was going to nafak mini Shlomo. She was going to have Shlomo come out from her. It's the Nagnei Paro, who are the astrologers of Paro. Rabbi Chaim bar Rabbi Chanina. Why does it mean when it says these are the waters of affliction? Sharo, it's Tagnine Paro Vito. Hema Sharo, these are the ones who saw the astrologers of Paro and they made a mistake. Rosh and Moshe and they saw that the salvation of the Jewish people was going to be afflicted in the water. So Amru called Bena Yiloda Yorah. They thought they have to kill the people in the water because that's where the leaders would die, and one of them would be the leader, so he'd die in the water. And they didn't realize that Moshe was going to be afflicted because he'll sin by the May Mariva, by the waters of Mariva, and that's why he would not go into the land of Israel. And how do we know that Yeravam has no share in the world to come? Because it says, this world Hashmin is Olam Haba. Rabbi Yochanan why did Yeravam merit to be the king? Because he rebuked Shlomo. And why was Yeravam punished? So because he rebuked him in public in order to embarrass him, as it states, Yeravam ben Nafrat. Basically, Shlomo Bona Samilo Sagar as parents ear David Aviv. So this is the matter that he lifted up his hand against the king. King Solomon had built Milo Sagar, and he covered up the breaches of the city of David. What does that mean? Amar lo David Avicha Paratz Paratzos B'Choma. Yeravam said to Shlomo, your father made breaches in the wall, Kadesha Yahweh Yisrael Regal, to allow people to have overpasses, easy access, easement to get to Jerusalem. You covered them up. You want to make a tax to raise money for Paro. So that was correct. That's why he married to be king. You corrected him properly. You shouldn't have made a toll. What was his sin? That he removed his tefillin in front of Shlomo Melch, which was a sign of disrespect because he uncovered his head. What was the reason that Yeravam has no share in the world to come? What caused him? What was the ultimate source of sin? It says that he was arrogant and says, "Vayomer Yerabim belivo, I thought Tashuv Amal Machor Beis David." Im Yahweh Amazel Asos V'Achim Beis Hashem Yerushalayim V'Shavlei V'Amazel Adonai Marochav Melch Yehuda Varaguni V'Shavu Arochav Melch Yehuda. So Yerabim said, now the people will go back to serve David, and the kingdom will be, if these people go and bring sacrifice in Jerusalem, they'll go back to Rechavam, the son of Shlomo, and they'll kill me, and they'll worship him. So the Gemara says, why was Yerabim worried that they'll go to the temple? Amar, he said, Gemiri the Ein Yeshiva Bazar. He said the whole source of his sin was, he says, I have a tradition that nobody's allowed to. There's a tradition, there's a teaching, Halacha Moshe Sinai, and nobody's allowed to sit in the temple courtyard, except the king of Judah. And once they saw Rechavim that he was sitting, he said, Ana Kamina, he said, I will stand. Stavri, once he saw that Rechavim was sitting, and he said, and I'm standing, Stavri Hamalka V'Avda, they'll say, oh, Rechavim is the king, but I'm a slave. And if I'm going to sit more of a Malchusavi, they'll say I'm rebelling against Rechavim. So then they'll kill me and they'll for sure follow him. Miyad, what do you do? So he made 2 golden calves, one in Beisel, one in Dan. He said, don't go to Jerusalem. What does it mean by Yivayit? What do you mean he took counsel? He put one person who was bad with one person who was good. When he said to them, Chasmisu, I'll call David. Are you signing off on everything I'm doing? They said, yes. He says, I want to be king. Yes. Everything I say to you do. They said, yes. I feel he said, even to worship idolatry. The righteous one said, God forbid. So the wicked one said, do you think what he's saying he's really going to do? Do you think he's really going to worship idolatry? They're trying to test him. Right? If they accept his words or not. But he doesn't really want to worship idolatry. And also Achia the Shiloni, who was a Navi and Tzaddik, Tav v'Chasav. He also signed off on this, that they should do everything that Yeravim did. He thought they were just testing, but it wasn't true, but that it wasn't real. And the Gemara proves that Achia Shiloni signed off on Yeravim. Taha Yehu, because Yehu, who ruled over Israel, Tzadika Rabba, Yehu was a tremendous righteous man. It says, Vayomer Shema Yehu Yana Sher Tivosa Lasosa Yeshar Be'inai B'Kol Kohosher Uvavi Asisi Lebeis Achav B'nei Revim Yeshvu Chal Kisei Yisrael. So it proves he was righteous. V'ksiv Yehu Shamar Lechav B'Torah Hashem Lokei Yisrael B'Chol V'Vo Osar Me'al Chatoos Yeravim Asher Achatiyat Yisrael. That Yehu didn't remove the sins of Yeravim. My grandmother, why did Yehu not get rid of the golden calves? He was righteous. A person who says something with his lips, even if he doesn't believe it, that causes something to happen. And it states, and so therefore in the end, because he was trying to, when he wanted to kill all the Kohanim, and Achav had set up for Baal, for Avodah Zarah, he like tricked them. He said, he made it sound like he wanted to worship Baal. He says, Achav served Baal a little bit, and Yehu will serve it a lot. And as a result of this, he was able to collect them, and he was able to kill them. But since he said, Hu Yavdenu Arbei, so as a result of this, it caused the fact that he was not able to actually be successful in removing the golden calves. The reason why he was not able to remove the golden calves of Yeravim was because he saw the signature of Achia Shaloni on it, and therefore he made a mistake. And this is the Daf Yomi for Shabbos. I want to say one thing before everybody goes, a couple of things.